Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, our network is headed into its 16th year and is listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to take a moment to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with and for you. And last session, we got a little bit, I don't want to say dark, but solemn. I'm going to go with solemn. And so in this session, I just need to, it's time to just woosah, let that all go. Not that we're going towards toxic positivity, but aiming for balance, I'm going to say. And so I want this session to be about joy because if we wouldn't have the dark without the light. We wouldn't have the dark times without the joyous times. And we wouldn't know one from the other if we didn't have that paradox, right? So I would like to talk about asanas or poses that bring joy. And we will probably have gone over a couple of these in the past, but I just feel like we need more joy. And for me and my life right now, I have a new beginning starting, which I am beyond excited about, and I will share that with you guys. It's a technical dream come true, actually, and it as in true style of the universe, God, whomever it is that you align yourself with, it does not unfold the way that you want or think it will when it does. But when it unfolds, man, does it kind of snowball on you. So I am actually opening up a brick and mortar yoga studio, which I have always wanted to do. And I tried to do in the past, and logistics did not bode well for me. And COVID happened. So for any and all, not only yoga practitioners, but anyone in the physical or uh, health and wellness space that was not already online, talk about a pivot there, right? And for many other, not just the health and wellness space. So COVID was kind of like the BC or the AD of our generation, as I like to put it, before COVID and after. So I think that we're finally starting to, I don't want to say fully bounce back, and I'm going to knock on wood so that we don't, trigger some sort of, relapse into that crazy, crazy time that we all shared together. At least we were in it together. That's, I guess, the positive side of the COVID situation. Uh, so it's finally happening for me in a lovely way, and with some very supportive individuals who have helped me to bring it together. And I'm very excited. It's going to be shocker. Here's Above Yoga. There's Above Yoga Studio. And I will put a link to my website so that you guys can check it out. And we won't be going online quite yet. I'm going to focus on the brick and mortar, boots on the ground first. But in this idea of new beginnings, sparking joy. Sorry, Marie Kondo, I'm not stealing from you. I'm mentioning you and giving you credit for that nomenclature, but I just need to focus on things that bring me joy. And I think the first asana that probably comes to a lot of people's minds when they think, what pose gives me joy, is happy baby. Why is that? It's right there in the name of the pose. And also it's kind of, for me, when I lead a class anyway, it is the signifier for we're done now. We're on the mat. We're about to hit Shavasana. We may or may not do reclined spinal twist. If we want to, we will. If we don't feel like we need it or we already did it, then we don't need to worry about it. But gosh darn it, we're going to go into Happy Baby. So for those of you that don't know, Happy Baby is where you lay down fully on your back. You bring your knees outside the torso towards your armpits, actually. And then depending on your level, the arm length, because remember, I have T-Rex arms. I have short arms for my body. It's so weird, but I do. Um, Either grabbing the soles of the feet, the big toe, the ankles, or even just the backs of the thighs. You can use a strap, although that can get a little tricky because you want to keep the knees and ankles in line with each other, wider than the torso. But actually, it's an internal rotation of the hips, not a full external rotation of the hips. So it's a little bit of a funky pose, but I think everybody loves it. Whenever you say happy baby, everyone just like kind of rolls on their back and grabs their feet and starts rocking side to side like a toddler on the floor who's experiencing what the balls of their feet feel like for the very first time. So it kind of it brings us back to that surrender, that innocence, that thank God we pushed through. We're almost there. We're almost at the end. We can taste it, we can feel it, and it just again, it sparks joy. It's the first when I was thinking about what I wanted to kind of bring out and focus on for this month, joy just kept coming like, gosh, we need more joy. We need more things to be happy about. We need more positive things to focus on. We need to be that change. I'm dropping lots of isms today, so that one's a nod to Gandhi. Um, so be that change and bring that joy and be that bringer of light in and around you. And I had a wonderful conversation with an older lady yesterday who I've known for many years, and we were talking about yoga and we were talking about our gait and walking and, just getting into that conversation of, the horrors of the world. And she started to bring up atrocities to horses, how horses are some of the most abused animal species in the world. And I said, I know it, and it's horrible. And I said, and all I can ever say is if you take care of the immediacy in your environment, whether that for me that's my personal horses or the horses of my friends and neighbors. I've done Reiki on horses. I cookie the faces of all the horses in the barn that where my horses live, and you know I won't get into the atrocities, but when she said that, I said, if all of us do that, if the entire world, this is to be the change, right? If the entire world just brings light, joy, conscientiousness, positive actions, and support to their own little corner of the world, the whole world will light up. That is literally the point. That is what it is. So if the people who have that in their hearts to do better, to be better, and to inspire positive change, that's how we bring it about. I'm not saying to not be or act in a large capacity level. I'm not saying not to do that. Please do. And the people that are doing that, support them. But also there's a mindset of not ostracizing, again, not going toxic positivity, everything's fine, all the horses are fine. Like that's completely not the case. But do what you can do, support the corner in the space that you are in, and support those that are doing it on a larger scale, and do what you can and bring that light and that awareness to others. And I can't say that enough. So to that end, I digress. But I just think it's so important to remind yourselves that we are our own light. We are the light within ourselves, and we can snuff it out or we can cultivate it. And I am a firm believer, again, not toxic positivity, not head in the sand, everything's wonderful. No, but there's an element of awareness and then there's an element of focus. And when you focus on the atrocity, you don't focus on the positivity, you fall victim to the atrocity by feeding that energy. And that's what I mean. It's the Native American proverb of the wolf that you feed, right? So it's the same kind of thing. So yes, people do horrible things to animals on a whole, and it is awful and unforgivable. And I'm not gonna get into that beyond the fact that the choices that you make can hopefully support the opposite of the atrocity. And becoming aware of it is your responsibility. Acting out against it is your responsibility. Cycling around the fixation of the horror doesn't help or save those animals. It just drags you and drains you down to a level where you feel powerless, you do nothing, and then you wind up not supporting. So again, I digress, and we're going to focus right back on the joy. But to anyone and everyone who does have that light within their heart, please shine it. Please support whatever cause it is that speaks to you, and support love, life, safety, and protection for any and all beings. We are all worthy and deserving of love and respect and the right to survive and be cared for. We're all deserving of that. So, getting back to the asanas, as I totally digressed on you guys, I think that a lot of times people are going to associate, and I associate happy poses, if you will, with like heart openers, chest openers, things that literally physically lift you up. And I think that that's valid, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think the flip side of that is that people really enjoy reclined postures because, again, much like Happy Baby, it's like, oh, we're done, we're on the mat, it's over. It's over. The hard part is over. We've made it. We've made it through to the other side, and we're reclining. And I think to that end, two of my favorite postures. The first of which is reclined bound angle. So that's on your back. And this, if you do have lower back issues, this is one that you may need to prop. You may have some pinchy pincherson. So we don't want that, right? So, but recline bound angle, let's just assume that your lower back is perfectly fine and you feel wonderful all the time, right? Let's make that assumption, which is wildly probably inaccurate, but we're just going to go with that for the description of the posture. So soles of the feet are pressing together. You are laying on your back. Your knees are splayed all the way out to the side and your legs are forming an elongated diamond shape. And the closer you bring your heels in towards your hips, towards your buttocks, the more aggressive the stretch on the inner thighs and, potentially any pinching in the lower back. You can prop, if your knees don't fully reach the floor, you can put pillows, blocks, bolsters, rolled up blankets and towels under the knees. And you can even take one of the assist prop recommendations for this asana is to actually strap the ankles around underneath the legs and to the backs of the hips, and it can actually alleviate some of the spinal discomfort, but it creates this yoga pretzel supported inverse kind of hard to describe feeling. And I only recommend that you start to play with strapping yourself to yourself when you're in the presence of a qualified professional. Disclaimer alert. But I definitely think that it is well worth that investment of time. It is super comfortable. And I do believe that's actually one of the asanas in that particular setup that is supposed to help with fertility issues. So for your awareness, if that's something that is of concern to you and yours. And then another one, which is a lot more challenging, but of a similar vein, is reclined hero. Now, if you have knee issues in any capacity, hero and reclined hero may not be for you at all, and that's okay. Try bound angle. Get a professional, have a strap. Give it a shot. It's lovely. It's truly lovely. And like I said, there are ways to support. Make sure you're comfortable. You can even lay on a bolster to alleviate that back pain. No harm, no foul. Hero and reclined hero is where you are sitting on you're kneeling, truly you're kneeling, but you're actually not even sitting on your heels. Your feet are on the outside of your hips, putting even more internal rotation and pressure on the knees, and you're kneeling, so your knees are in the full extent of compression that they can actually be in because your hips are now at the same level of your feet. So you really can't compress your knees more than that because the body weight is doing it for you. I love the pose. It's a wonderful stretch for your quad. It's great to lubricate the knees if you don't have any knee issues. It's a wonderful stretch and love for the tops of the feet and the shins. So it's got a lot of benefits. I always suggest starting this pose on a block. Never getting your hips to the floor unless you're hypermobile, which isn't necessarily great either, but super flexible or it's in your practice. Otherwise, you could even be on 2 blocks for a pose like this. And if you have knee issues, maybe just don't do it. In the recline variation, you can't sit on the blocks because it's not going to work out, but it does feel stinking delightful. You can also have one leg extended. You can do a half hero, which is also a setup for crane, but we're not going to go down that road. So starting to get comfortable with that deep compression of the knee, if and only if it is accessible for you. Again, disclaimer alert, because it can really be challenging as someone with knee issues who's had a knee issue since I was 3 years old. My right knee does not always love hero, and you have to be very, very mindful because it's not an easy one to get in and out of. So if you're reclining in hero, then you are as you are, but you're then laying back, which puts even more of a stretch into the quads, and then also starts to open up a little bit through the hip flexors. Again, it's going to gently pull on the lower back. So if it's not accessible to you, you can work your way down by kind of coming down onto your elbows. But if you have the mobility and the knee accessibility for it, it feels delightful. It truly does. And it's one of those postures, much like its knee inversion counterpart bound angle, where you can just, if you're comfortable, you can hang out there. And these are some of the asanas that in a restorative yoga class will be propped. You will be propped into these in a way that's comfortable for you, which, you can just kind of hang out and let the muscles open, let the joints release, just be. Lay like broccoli. I'm stealing it from Pretty Woman. Lay like broccoli in these kind of yoga pretzels. So those are two, and again, reclined, that if they're accessible to you for whatever reason, right? Bound angle is not necessarily usually rough on the knees. It can be rough on the hips. It can be rough on the lower back because you are coming into external rotation. So whereas in Happy Baby, your legs are wider, you're still kind of in that internal rotation similar to Hero. So it's a little bit, like I said, of a funky pose. And sometimes people go into their external rotation and they just roll around and they're happy about it anyway. And that's okay as long as they're not harming themselves or causing any harm to their bodies when they put themselves in that position. When it comes to recline poses, I already touched on it. I don't think you can say enough about a reclined spinal twist. I think that insofar as asanas that just melt your heart and anxiety in the most positive way, that just think and feel good, that you can deepen, you can prop, you can relish in. I think reclined spinal twist may be, if not the top, one of the top favorites. And that's why a lot of these asanas, if you'll notice, they come at the end of the class, right? So they are poses that you warm up into, and then they just take all of that hard work, all of that life that's been lifing for you, right? And they just wring you out like a towel and let it all release onto the floor, into the earth beneath you. And I just think that that is so special to yoga, that people who don't have a yoga practice or have this preconceived notion, which as I open the studio and I'm talking more and more about yoga to people that don't do yoga, it's like you just don't know because you haven't done it. You don't have that experience of like, oh my God, this feels so good. Oh my God, like we just went through this entire thing. I just almost beat the crap out of my body gently, but I worked hard. You work hard in a yoga class, and you come down to the floor and you lay on your mat and you roll open into that twist, and your whole body is supported by the floor, and you can just feel the release, the tension leave the body. You can feel the relaxation, the ease come back into the body. You can feel balance coming back into your body, and you just let go, and you are fully at that point. Hopefully you are fully in the present moment. You are a pretzel on the floor. You have worked your little behind off, and you are enjoying all of you're relishing. Again, I'm going to go relish. You're relishing all of that positive new prana energy that's come into your body through your breath, and you're releasing all of that garbage that you've carried with you in your body that you didn't even know you were carrying onto the mat, into the earth for recycling, and to come back as something stronger and better. So I just think that, again, these end of class postures are there probably for a reason. And to that end, you have to throw shavasana in there. You have to. There's no way you can't. Again, simple way, legs up the wall, toes out to the sides. You're just laying on the floor. It's adult nap time. But hopefully you're not actually napping. Although if it's a good shavasana, I've seen students fall asleep, and you kind of have to give them a gentle nudge when everyone else has left the room. But shavasana is one of those just beautiful, wonderful, worthwhile. You got there, you made it. It's the finish line asana. It's the I made it, I did it. We're done for now. We're on the mat. We're letting all of this goodness kind of soak in and fall out, and we're just breathing in our bodies, and we're grateful for this stillness. And it's just, again, it's the epitome of the practice. So how can it not be on our list of happy asanas? So as I've done a whole series on like the ending of a yoga class and why we go through those asanas in the way that we do, and we've touched a bit on the fact that a lot of these happy asanas are reclined. I think another association of asanas that kind of spark joy are any of them that take the arms up over the head and that kind of lift you up out of yourself. And I'm gonna say that the one for me, this is not gonna be for the one that maybe doesn't make me feel joy, and it's probably a me thing. Well, that just means I need to do it more. The one that doesn't make me feel joy is gonna be chair pose, even though your arms are up, even though your arms are up. Something about chair pose is more of a heating pose, so it's less of an exuberance and more of a target. Like I think of chair pose when I think of asanas in that way, and I think of an accomplishment, a drive, direction, focus, not necessarily joy, celebration, reaching for the sky kind of a vibe. Warrior One, on the other hand, or even Tadasana, mountain pose, which we touched on last series, where it's not that it's not targeting, it's not that it's not determined and motivational, and it's Warrior One, right? But if your arms are up in Warrior One and you're reaching for the sky and you're lifting up out of your legs and you're set up appropriately and your body is fully engaged from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers in all different ways, right? One leg's front forward, one leg's back, one knee's bent, one leg straight. Your hips are reaching forward, so you're getting a hip flexor stretch in one, you're getting a quad strengthener in the other. It is it's an all-encompassing, joy-creating asana. It just is. You're lifting your heart up to the ceiling, you're lifting your gaze up to the sky, you're lifting your arms up. It is a full expression of upwards, 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 upwards. Um, Another one that I want to touch on because it's my favorite, one of my favorites, and I think because it just feels so good. And I've talked to other instructors, and I think a lot of instructors, it may be their favorites as well, and that's triangle. Can't not love a triangle. Again, it's rotating your heart to the sky. So while it's not a one may not lump it in as a true heart opening asana, it's a chest opener. It's a torso rotation. So it's just this full, again, your body is doing so many different things at the same time, but the way that triangle, for me anyway, it opens your hips, it strengthens your legs, it strengthens your back, it strengthens your core, and it opens your chest, it opens your heart, it lifts your whole body up to the sky, your arms reaching, your gaze is looking up. For me, it's a true joy inspiring, feel good kind of asana, kind of pose. And it's just one of my favorites. So it has to be on this list of happy asanas. Another one that I'm gonna say I was torn. I was torn about referencing. And again, it's more of it's back towards an end of the class posture, but I think that what's really important about it is it's a love or hate, and you know the one, pigeon pose. So for a lot of women, it is their happy place and they melt into it, and it's just like, yes, pigeon, we've made it, we're here, it's wonderful, let's hang out here all day long. Unfortunately, a lot of men don't feel that way about pitch, and just again, based on not no gender, but based on the body mechanics of the male physique and the female physique. We talked about this. Women's hips are built to rotate slightly externally for childbirth. Men's hips are more angled. When I talk about hips, I mean the femur head in the socket of the pelvis, right? So we're not talking about anything other than the physical mechanics of it. Men have a tendency to have more forward hip joints. Women are slightly more external, which is why a pose like reclined bound angle might feel much better and be much more accessible for a female, and a pose more like reclined hero might be a little more accessible or a little easier to get in and out of for a man, arguably. Nothing is definitive. Every single body is different. We are all special snowflakes. So everyone's different. Everyone loves or hates poses and I hope they don't really hate them, but loves or hates poses in their own way and has relationships with all of them. But I think some of them are universal, happy baby being probably one, reclined spinal twist being another. Again, the two reclines that I just mentioned, I think are probably a little bit less practiced on a regular basis, especially hero, because like I said, with the knee implications. But Warrior One and Triangle, I think everyone does those all the time. And Warrior One can be a challenging pose, so can Triangle. But I feel like people really enjoy them much more so than some of the some of their similar counterparts. Like Warrior 2 is another one where I feel like the setup of the arms and even though it's more of a hip opener, because you are an external rotation, you're lengthwise facing on the mat, you're not on the train tracks that you are in Warrior 1. Your feet are similarly set up to a triangle pose. Even in a Warrior 2 or an extended angle, the reason that I'm not putting them on this list, but I'm referencing them for this conversation is because they're strengthening, they're directional, they are your body is in a very, very specific and multifaceted position in both of those asanas. I just, for me, don't feel like they have that same spark of joy. And extended angle is not dissimilar to triangle in the way that you're rotating up and you're opening through the heart center, but it just because of the placement of the arms, if you're in a deep extended triangle, I'm sorry, extended angle, if you're in a deep asana, and they're perfectly wonderful poses with many many benefits, but I just feel like there's a difference between Warrior One and Warrior Two in this context. There's a difference between triangle and extended angle in this context. And maybe it's just me, and that's okay. But I feel as though some of these asanas have this, I'm gonna say soulful vibe, and all of it should, right? Like if you, I know that yoga can trigger those that may be religious instead of spiritual, and I happen to be both. And be mad at me that I am, but I am, and I'm gonna own that and live with it because that's what I do. I feel as though when you have a yoga practice, and I encourage everyone, if you're listening to this, I hope you do, because otherwise, if you don't have a yoga practice and you're listening to me, especially with my asana episodes, I don't know, you have no frame of reference probably. So I hope that maybe it'll inspire you to have a yoga practice, but there are certain postures and asanas that just melt that your body, and I'm sure that different body types, other people will have different poses that spark joy. Only a few, sorry Marie, again, kind of saying thank you for letting me steal that phrase from you today. I just feel as though for me, triangle, joy, pure heart opening, torso lengthening joy. Warrior One, yeah, I feel strong. Yeah, I feel, but my arms are up. My heart is lifting. I am reaching towards the sky. Joy, joy. A little more strengthening, a little more exciting, but it brings that idea of joy. And the one that I didn't, the one kind of, we've talked about reclined, right? We've talked about standing. We've even talked about some prone or kneeling. We haven't talked about balance. And I think that there's a reason for that. And I think the reason for that is that balance asanas generally take so much concentration that I think joy may fall by the wayside a little bit because there's so much focus. And for me, it's I'm torn because I don't know why. I think it's because the arms are up, but I want to say that the balance pose that most inspires joy, one might say heart opener, dancer. For me, I feel like it's tree. It's just it comes through me and it says tree. And I think tree is accessible. I think it's one of the most over popularized yoga asanas out there. Whenever you see Instagram yogis, they're in tree pose, and 9 times out of 10, I want to take their foot and get it off their knee, but that's the teacher in me. And I just think that, your arms can be reaching up to the sky, you're balancing on one foot, you're getting, again, your body's in this, and your body is doing so many different things all at once, and you're doing it. You're grounded and you're reaching towards the sky. Very not dissimilar to Warrior One, and I think that's probably why I feel that way. For me personally, a favorite, but I don't feel like it sparks joy, but it is a favorite similar to triangle is half moon. I love a half moon on a wall. I love to do half moon on a wall and just same it is the same torso rotation. So it is still opening the heart in its own very special way. It's the same torso rotation as you guessed it, triangle. So it is, and when it's supported and up against a wall, and again, you can just melt on into it, it's a beautiful, beautiful asana. I would wager that many people would not put half moon on their sparking joy or happy yoga list. But I think that it's on my personal favorites list, as is triangle. And I think there's a little bit of a crossover between happy yoga asanas or joy inspiring yoga asanas and favorites. Because if you and what do we always say in yoga about favorites? You don't need your favorite asanas. You need the asanas that you avoid the most. And so I think that you'll very infrequently find the avoided asanas on the happy yoga asana list. But I'm curious as to what your favorite yoga asanas are, and if you kind of are on the same vein as me when it comes to the idea of, yeah, heart openers, of, yeah, these torso lengthening, chest expanding, or melting into the ground kind of feel good asanas. And I hope that this conversation and this idea of the dichotomy between the dark and the light, the joy and the less joy, the less joyous, um, inspires you to feel and bring and be more joy. Feel more joy in your life, bring more joy to others, bring more joy to yourself, and and be the joy that you want to see. Be that joy for others, be that joy for yourself. When you feel like you're, just walking through the dark, be your own light. Get on the floor, grab your ankles, roll around in happy baby, take a minute. People definitely have called. I will share this. This will be my last, and I will share it in my corporate job, in my other. I was having a very trying transaction, and I'm a yoga instructor, so there were very few people in my office, almost no people in my office. There was one other colleague, and two lovely humans. I love all three of these humans, who happened to be there, and I got news, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was wearing pants. And what did I do? I laid on the floor and I put my legs up the wall in our admin's office next to her desk, and my manager came in and the caller, they're, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing yoga. I've had some bad news. I'm laying on the floor. My legs are up the wall. This is how I process. Now, in a different kind of context, would that be something that you could probably get called into HR for? Sure. But I think it speaks to a final favorite, joy inspiring pose, legs up the wall, good for everything, especially bad news. If you have bad news, you're feeling bad, lay on the floor, put your legs up the wall. It can't hurt unless you have some sort of pain or discomfort from doing that. But it grounds you. It shifts your perspective physically, visually, mentally, emotionally. It can bring balance back. And, I think that my colleague and my manager, but luckily they were very, very kind and we all had a good laugh about it. And they know me that I will never not be the yoga teacher, right? So process how you need to process. Be respectful of your process always, and honor your process and honor yourself, and remember that there is joy. If it's ice cream, if it's, if it's for me it's chocolate. If it's chocolate, if it's petting your dog, if it's holding your child, if it's kissing your partner, if it's taking a half hour in the morning to drink your coffee and just stay in bed a little longer, maybe wake up a little earlier so you don't make yourself late and crazy in the process. That's the honor yourself part, right? But treat yourself like you love yourself and demand the same from others and be that joy, because man, if you don't create the joy for yourself, I don't think a lot of people are going to do it for you. And if you have someone that does it for you, bless them, thank them, and do not let them go. So, on that note, I just would like to share with each and every one of you how much I appreciate you for sharing the gift of your time with me, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast and visit my website, airsaboveyoga.com, which is now also my platform for my in-person brick and mortar studio. So I encourage you please to do check that out. And other than that, please don't forget to check out my other episodes and all of the amazing sisters of mine on the Divas That Care Network. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and YouTube and Buzzsprout, and anywhere else that you may feel guided for your podcasts. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast, where every day is a good one.